Good morning. This is Jason Moss of Georgia Manufacturing Alliance and Manufacturing News Network. Today is April the 21st, and today's topic is around human resources and safety. And we got some interesting news to talk about today. Governor Kemp rolled out some information. I want to make sure everybody's up to speed on the latest news. In a press conference yesterday afternoon, Governor Kemp announced that the shelter-in-place order is going to expire at 11:59 on Thursday, April the 30th for most Georgians. He also stated that hospitals can now resume elective surgeries. Cosmetologists, barbers, massage therapists, estheticians, and tattoo parlors can resume business on Friday, April the 24th. Theaters, private clubs, restaurant dining rooms may open on the 27th of April with strict social distancing enforced. And shelter in place is advised through May 13th. Although it's been lifted, we're still recommending shelter in places as much as possible through May 13th. Churches can resume worship service following strict social distancing guidelines. Drive-in services and live streaming services are still advised through this time. Amusement parks and nightclubs will remain closed. So, with that all being said, the game has changed as of yesterday. Governor Kemp was probably one of the most aggressive governors at this point with reopening a facility that had been, with shelter in place been implemented. So going to be interesting to see kind of how things shake out. We had a call this morning with our team. We've been working remotely for the past, I guess it's been a month now, month and change. And so we're gonna officially open the office back up. Brittany and Heather are gonna start coming, but Wesley and I have been here, all the way through. But Brittany and Heather are gonna be coming back in on Monday. So GMA's headquarters is going to be open. If you want to come by, give us a call first to make sure that we're going to be here. We're still going to kind of do as much social distancing as we can. But today's topic, again, we're talking about human resources, and we're going to be talking about safety. So that's the topic of the day. And I'm excited to hear from you guys a little bit about what you guys are seeing, from a safety aspect, especially bringing folks back into work, trying to get back to business as usual. I don't know that we're ever going to be 100% back to the way we were before all of this stuff kicked off, but I'm excited to hear some insight and input from some of you guys, as well as your thoughts about the process and the speed at which we have the opportunity to go back to work. Now, I will tell you, I posted these exact comments on Facebook and on LinkedIn, and I've been been really interesting to see the feedback that we've received. Pretty well divided. There's some, we don't do politics here. That's one of the things that we really, really strive not to do. And I don't do politics too much on social media because I've got an opinion, and I'm just going to keep the opinion that I have, and not to be swayed with it either way. And my goal is not to influence folks either way on the political side of the house. So I found that it just works better that way. Just because I believe something doesn't mean that I'm, going to have any challenges with the way other people believe, and especially on the political side. But it's been really interesting to see the feedback, and I've got a wide base of friends that I'm engaged with, from every aspect. I got some of the most liberal people you've ever seen on the planet, and then I've got some of the most conservative people that you've ever met. And it's really fun to watch. Light the fuse and toss a hand grenade out there, or pull the pin and toss a hand grenade out there and see what happens. And sometimes you get some feedback that you can be a little surprised with. So, but what we're going to do is again, we're just going to talk a little bit about what's going on, and we're going to talk about the facts. The facts are, the state's not fully opened, but I think Governor Kemp is really pushing hard to be able to allow people to make their own choices. And one of the pieces that I kind of qualified some of these conversations around was the way that people can choose to respond. I mean, everybody has their own thing. Nobody's telling anybody that they have to go back out and play. Everybody gets to make their own choices, and at what level of risk you're comfortable with. That's the beautiful thing about, living in America. We're not forced or mandated to do a ton of stuff. So, if you want to go outside, I'm gonna encourage you to go outside. If you want to, resume business as usual, as best you can, that's your choice. And if you want to maintain shelter in place for another month, if that's the path that you go to, I'm gonna fully respect and appreciate that. So that's sort of the framework of the conversation today. And I'm really excited to bring Mike Fisher online with us, and I'd love to get from a safety vantage point. So we're going to have Mike and Roger Grabman as well. So those are the two guys that I've asked to kind of give us a little bit of insight. What do you think about the governor's new shelter in place, or relaxing some of the regulations on the shelter in place, Mike? What are you seeing from a business standpoint? What are you seeing there?
Well, it's been I think a little bit too soon since the announcement yesterday, and we know that the end of the week here is the target date for the implementation of this directive at this point from the governor. And I don't know how much it's going to impact our business specifically. Terracon is an engineering and environmental services company. We've been busy. Our people are out there doing their jobs. They have been on the job sites. Of course, a lot of it is construction-based or facilities inspections type of work on the engineering side, and on top of that, the environmental work that we're doing pretty much mandates that we either do desktop type work or we go to job sites, some with folks working and some without folks working. However, we are maintaining our safety precautions. We do have a pretty intense safety program. I think the one thing I can say about the safety factor that we found on some of these sites is that we're seeing some of the typical practices that involve safety, especially on construction sites, falling a little bit by the wayside with folks who are more concerned about practicing the safety relative to COVID and maintaining, I think, their distances and make sure they're wearing the proper PPE to keep themselves from being exposed to the virus. But that kind of also, I think, clouds the mind a little bit with the folks and the people that are working out there to keep in mind of the other safety practices they have to follow. So whether that becomes a difference and whether that changes the paradigm here with the governor's directive to slowly start reopening businesses is going to be an interesting factor to keep an eye on. For the most part, I think what will probably improve for a lot of the people working out there is they won't have to worry about where they can go to do the things that they need to do, especially grabbing a cup of coffee or getting lunch, or if they need to go to the Home Depot or Lowe's to pick up supplies and things like that, and whether they're going to have to wait for that, the time allotted to spend time doing that. Convenience stores are one of the places I think that are going to, see an uptick in benefit from all of this, and that would be interesting to keep an eye on. However, overall, I think people are going to practice what they need to practice and continue to practice what they feel is appropriate to maintain their safety during this time frame, and see how it works out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And you said that you saw a lot of folks really maybe more focusing on the safety aspect through the social distancing and the PPE rather than the traditional safety practices on job sites. I mean, what do you see in there? Do you see that's?
Well, I think the mindset is that there are certain directives that come down from the company, from the companies that they work for, reminders, if you will, on a daily basis to say, wear your PPE, wear your protective mask, and maintain a distance between yourself and others. Stay out of the site offices or whatnot, or don't go to people's offices, do video conferencing. That kind of puts that aspect in a paramount position on people's mindsets and people's considerations on a routine and daily basis, as opposed to the other practices of OSHA, which require you to um, not not put yourself in danger, and consider all of the aspects of safety requirements that you have to practice when you're doing your job. So to that extent, I think some of the companies are concerned. We've seen memos from some of the companies out there saying that they've seen an uptick in some of the incidences where people are not following those OSHA safety practices that they need to keep in mind and continue to practice even through the current situation.
Right, right. I got you. Now, are you guys seeing any? Do you see any long-term changes in the way that you would do business? I know you got to go out to the job sites, you got to inspect, you got to make sure that they're following the regulations and that sort of thing. There's some stuff you can do by Zoom, and some stuff you just can't, right? So, what do you guys see as far as any like long-term changes in the way that you guys are doing business? What do you see in there?
I think that everybody is pretty much waiting for this to get back to normal, and the current practices are a bit of a hindrance, I think, to some folks, especially who are out there doing the job, the guys in the field who have to be on those construction sites, who have to be in the buildings doing the inspections and the like, and find themselves in close proximity to the workers, to the supervisors, to the project managers on those sites, or even to the managers within the businesses themselves. However, in terms of what it might do long term, I think the only thing that we're looking forward to is the getting back to the normal and not having to worry as much about proximity to social distancing, because it's one of those situations, job sites, especially construction job sites and building inspections and the like, that put you in very close proximity to people all the time. So we're getting to that point of recognizing certain limitations in doing business under these conditions that I think we're all waiting to get beyond as we get into the new normal with business.
Right, right. On the new normal, do you see being able to utilize more people or more technology using Zoom? I mean, have you guys increased y'all's your use of the tools? Do you see that continuing?
I think so, but there is obviously, you're in the business where the benefit of face-to-face contact and networking can't really be replaced by an IT meeting so much. I mean, look at us today. We're all together here, and it's great, and we can have the discussion, but it doesn't beat a handshake. And it doesn't beat a pat on the back, and it doesn't beat a face-to-face, greeting and discussion in any way, shape, or form. I think there's a need for that tactile type of involvement when you get into relationships. And we do practice a lot of video conferencing. We were doing it before. We're using new technologies and new applications improve the capability to do that, and that's only because of the amount of time, energy, and information, data requirements that you spend in doing some of these meetings through certain technologies that you can maybe make better use of in other applications. So we may, I think, at some point get more and more of those. Of these types of video conferencing meetings going between our other offices and other states and the like. We were recently advised that it would be great if everybody who was in the meeting would turn their camera on, because some of our IT connections, all you're really seeing is somebody's photograph from their profile. But when you can see people, when you can see their face, we can see them motioning with their hands, it gets a little more personal, and it does also give you a bit more of a feeling for what the people are trying to express. I think that will change. I think we'll see more of that coming along as we move along through the different application technologies.
Yeah. It's I agree. I think it's going to be a whole new normal. I mean, I think we're up until 8 weeks ago, we had never done a Zoom or a webinar at all. It's just not something that we did. We're face to face, belly to belly. We want to go see facilities and build these relationships in a live environment. So it's been quite the shift for us. I believe that we probably will continue some level of plugging in this way, but I'm ready, for things to get back to as much as we can the way that they were, get back into doing some plant tours and live networking. But I agree 100% that, using Zoom, being able to see how people are responding and how they're reacting, communication, they say that 85% of communication is nonverbal, and your glamour shot only does so much when you got a static picture up there. I mean, we need to plug in as many of those as we can, but the reality is when you see live people and how they respond. I know as a speaker, it's really tough for me to be able to gauge an audience. One of the toughest things many years ago I got involved in was doing training, but I was doing web training. I mean, through teleconferences. And man, it was almost impossible because you can't read the audience. You can't see if they're getting it or if they're confused or if they got questions or they get excited about something. Man, that is crippling to be able to not see the folks in the engagement. So I love Zoom, and we're going to continue to use some of it as we go, but definitely not at the level that we're doing now. I mean, we've done for the past 6 weeks, we've done a call every day, and sometimes many days doing 2 or 3 calls a day. So we're ready to back down at the rate of calls that we've been doing for sure. Because this is, I know it might not look like a lot, but believe it or not, it's a pretty challenging work to put these pieces together. But I'm glad that we have the opportunity to do that. But Mike, thank you so much. I appreciate your insights there. And I want to bring Roger on the line with us, Mr. Roger Grabman. Tell us a little bit about, for those folks that don't know you, tell us who you are and exactly what you guys do, and what your vision is with the change in the shelter-in-place orders from yesterday.
Well, I'm Roger Grabman. I'm a registered professional engineer. Mike is a registered professional geologist. I have PE after my name. He can have PG after his name. I'm also the state president for the Georgia Society of Professional Engineers. Mm-hmm. In my business, I do audits for safety and OSHA compliance of machinery. Mm-hmm. And it just occurred to me that out of the 63 categories I have for hazard categories, I should add a couple more. And that is social distancing, pandemic condition hazards, and also touch pandemic condition hazards. Mm-hmm. So now I'm up to a 65 count on my categories of, in my protocol. I've got an 18-page protocol. I'm doing an audit for a machine safety.
Yeah.
The Engineering Society, we had a meeting a week ago yesterday over our YouTube channel. Someone gave a briefing on changes to the National Electrical Code. Okay, I can see everybody here. That was a really exciting concept to have for even a geologist wouldn't be interested in National Electrical Code, right? So anybody, it was over over our YouTube channel live. We've had some of our past presentations on that channel in the past, and we're seriously considering how can we move forward, even when we're meeting in our favorite restaurant for this purpose. How can we move forward with doing live broadcast of our meetings? It has the upside of increasing our potential audience, and of course, if there should be another occasion when we have to be isolating, we would have the infrastructure in place. Mm-hmm. I do have a suspicion that sometime in the future we may have a similar situation. Mm-hmm. Maybe not with this disease, or maybe not nearly as severe. It also occurred to me that when someone has the flu, that's a good excuse for them not to come to work and not to participate. But wait a minute, I'm recovering from the flu. I'm still at home. Oh, well, good. You can participate in our Zoom meeting. Mm-hmm. I don't want to. Well, okay, the boss says, yeah. So like the cell phone intruding on your vacation at the beach, perhaps the Zoom meetings will intrude also.
Yep. I think it's going to be definitely a new way to keep people engaged at some level, even if they are at home, for sure. So what do you see as far as the shelter in place? What do you see as the impact on that? Again, a lot of folks are sort of in the middle, but some people think it's way too soon. Some people think that it's not soon enough. What do you see it out there? What do you feel feedback from the people that you've been connecting to on the prospect and the sales side of the house?
I've not had a lot of contact in that arena. People not, you know, I come to places like this to hear what other people are thinking in that arena.
Yeah, I got you.
Otherwise, I do have a client that we're writing a proposal for that will involve a field visit,
Mm-hmm.
gathering information, even in establishing the scope of the project.
Mm-hmm.
Also, field measurements later. They had gone through at least a week, maybe a 2-week shutdown
Okay.
of several hundred or maybe even 1,000 people in their factory.
Okay.
They're back up and running, but now they have a protocol qualifying who can get through the door.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they had a protocol before. Oh, you have to be invited, and the guard at the gate would say, no, you can't come in, or no, go to building 2. And you always get escorted to the work site inside the plant. But still, now they've added additional criteria for qualifying people coming in.
Right. Right. I got you. Cool. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how quickly people open up and begin inviting folks back in that are not essential members of the team.
Well,
Roger.
Mike had mentioned people concentrating on pandemic safety issues and kind of dropping off on others. And the reality is, out there in the world, people often bypass safety considerations trying to get the work done. I've driven down the road and I've seen landscapers trimming trees, standing on the top of a stepladder.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's like, okay, you're right here out here in the street and your supervisor is letting you do this, and you're lucky it wasn't an ocean inspector driving by.
Yep.
I've known of a grocery store that used to block off their exits at night because they were concerned about shoplifting. There just so happened it was an OSHA office manager who happened to be doing some late night shopping one of those nights.
Mm-hmm.
He looked up the store manager. Night manager says, I know you can get in touch with your boss. I think he'll take my phone call.
Right. Yeah. Well, we got to be smart about what we do for sure. For sure. Well, Roger, appreciate that for sure, buddy. And I want to open this up to Keaton. Keaton, I'm going to put you right on the spot, brother. Not mind throwing you under the big Bluebird bus. Tell me what's going on in your space. I know you are a manufacturer and you work with a ton of other manufacturers. What are you seeing out there, brother? What's on the re-entry into manufacturing?
So everybody is on the label side of the business and the packaging side of the business. Everybody has been in a huge rush to order materials. Okay. So there was a huge rush over the last couple of weeks. The label manufacturing was way up. And I think that was because people were afraid they weren't going to be able to get materials. They're not sure about what was going on with logistics. And so now we've seen a lot of a slowdown pretty much, right? So everybody's working with skeleton crews. A lot of the work that we're doing right now is with personal protection equipment and hand sanitizer. Mm-hmm. So the word is on hand sanitizers is that if you think it's in a crunch now, just wait till you see what's coming, because it's already in a pinch now, right? So bottles are in shortage now. People can't get a hold of bottles. I've even heard that the dairy farmers are actually pouring out milk because they can't get a hold of 1-gallon jugs. Right. So what we have done as far as from the labeling and packaging side, Country Innovation and Supply is actually looking at doing the little hand sanitizer towelettes, mm-hmm. which is in like the one rip off, people pour like energy drinks into bottles, that kind of flexible packaging. Right. So we have a 4x6 pre-saturated towelette that we're looking at creating because that's a material that is still readily available, right? So we're just trying to figure out new ways of doing that. And if they reopen the economy, I think that's also a good way for companies to advertise as well because mm-hmm. of the printing on the packaging. So it's a form, fit, and function. Everybody still wants it at bars or whatever. that may be, or even manufacturing facilities, a one-time use thing, and then again, the supply chain is still good on that material. On the PPE side, we just received a very large purchase order from a hospital last week. And so I'm learning a lot about overseas logistics right now. So there's all these different purchase orders coming from hospitals and manufacturing companies and stuff like that for PPE. There's tons of people out there that are now selling it, but there's very few people out there that actually have it. So the people that have it and that are getting these containers in and have it, they're immediately getting rid of it. And that's what a lot of these governors are talking about, is that they're actually fighting over the same materials that have landed, and they're bidding against each other. So the people that have it are immediately getting rid of it. The issue with China is, and this was explained to me by a gentleman that I know that I'm doing business with, is he's actually lived in China over the last 30 years. And what he explained to me is if you look at China, you can almost kind of divide it up into three sections. Okay, it's all still communism and things like that, and ran over there, but the northern half is like super red, super communism under very, very tight controls. The central part of it is a little lenient here and there. The southern part, like Hong Kong, Shanghai, places like that, that is where the business and stuff is coming out of right now. So even with him owning a house in China, he still cannot go to China right now, right? Because everybody's been locked out. But the problem right now with the PPE is that most of it, when it is manufactured and it has FDA approvals and certifications on it, it's being held up in customs. And if it's not labeled like that, that's the only thing that's getting out of China right now, is if PPE is labeled as civil use. Well, and the other thing is that they're requiring 50% deposit upon your order, and that's mainly to go order raw materials, is what they're saying. And then the other 50% is required on the shipment of the material. So, people, this is like a new way of doing business, right? Everybody's been used to terms, and now it's cash in advance. So in actuality, if you can play and you have good sources, that's a great position to be in with a business, right? Because someone's paying for it up front. You don't have to hold your capital out on a ledge for it. You're still required to fulfill your customer's order. But China is really putting the pressure on these suppliers. And logistics is starting to go through the roof. Prices from China are changing every 7 days. The rules are changing every 7 days. It's very risky right now, right? Because if the money goes to China and somebody decides that it's just not shipping, or customs holds it up, because they're no longer promising delivered terms. So everything is FBO or FOB, Shanghai, or Guangdong, whatever it's all called, and it's just a big mess right now. So people that can play in the logistics, and I mean even the 3PLs, we're getting all kinds of different information on what's required from the 3PLs. So what we're really trying to find out and focus on right now is domestic suppliers. I'm working with manufacturers of sewing equipment. I'm working with manufacturers of fabric. What we're really trying to do now is concentrate on what you can get domestic, because everybody wants a proof of life of material, especially on the PPE. Hand sanitizer, the only people that are being allocated raw materials on hand sanitizer are the people that's what they did that's what their business was before this started. So actually I have a meeting tomorrow with one of the gentlemen who actually brings this stuff in daily in tankers and mixes the raw material, the glycerin and everything else to make hand sanitizer. And we're meeting with a president of a distillery here in Atlanta who also governs a lot of other distilleries, and we're working on the distilleries making the material in 7,000-gallon tankers, and then it's going to go to our manufacturing facility where actually the hand sanitizer is made, and some materials are mixed with that up in the Carolinas, and then that's going to be repackaged down into totes and then redistributed out amongst the distillery network, so they can again continue to fill and stuff like that, because they're the ones that are primarily, the distilleries are primarily the ones that are providing the hand sanitizer to our first responders.
Right. Right.
So,
Yeah, the supply chain is taking a wild hit, and that will never be the same. I think we're gonna look at reshoring. I think that right now we've got hiccups that we're having to deal with, but I believe that we're going to see a tidal wave of reshoring for manufacturers in the U.S. because we've seen now that there's some hiccups. There's a lot of stuff that I hate to say it, that we don't have capabilities of doing right now, but I don't think that that's going to be long lived. I think that we'll be able to reshore like we've never seen before, as we move through this. And so Keaton, I definitely appreciate you sharing with us on that. All right. Michelle, wanted to chat with you a little bit on the staffing side and the people side of the stuff. I mean, what have you seen from your vantage point? I know you got a lot of stuff going on and you're working with lots of different kinds of companies. What are you seeing as far as the engagement, and also what are your takeaways from the lightening of the shelter in place regs for Georgia?
I think what I've seen is mostly the concern of some of the people that are now, they're unemployed, they're relying on their unemployment, and they're being told they can go back to work. So that means that they're not obligated to, from my understanding, I could be wrong, from what I've gathered just from last night until today, but they're just really concerned about, they can go back to work, but if they don't feel safe, they stay home, but they're not getting paid. So they're obligated, financially to their family to go back to work and mingle with these people. You might just go to work and come home. Like I go to the grocery store, I come home.
Right.
But now all of those people are not going to be doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Some, you don't know who beside you has been to a movie theater, been to any of these other gatherings, and I'm trying, it's not political for me. I understand both sides of camp, like use your common sense, make your choices, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But at the same time, with the government release, some of these places are, having to decide whether or not they're going to open, how they can pay their employees if they're not, I don't know. I just know the concern is mostly about some of the people that are living off unemployment right now. And
right,
because if it's not mandated that these businesses stay closed, then are they going to have enough business to stay open?
Mm-hmm.
Are their workers going to find jobs in other places because they can't, I don't know, because they can't work a full shift or whatever, they can't, obviously they're not going to need the same amount of people. Are they going to completely lay them off because they're not obligated to keep them furloughed? So there's a lot of unanswered as far as that goes with the HR side and just knowing, and we won't know, I think, for a couple of weeks until, to see how all that shakes out.
Right. And especially,
I'm a people person and I'm a people person and a livelihood person, because you can make things as fun as you want it. If people feel obligated or unappreciated, or that you don't really feel, you don't care about what they're experiencing. I know people that are essential workers that still have to hire somebody to come and homeschool their kids. So
that's a big,
none of it's,
that's a big kind of kink in the system is all the kids are out till the fall, and if you don't have hadn't made arrangements to have kids taken care of. We gotta sort through that, and that's one of the reasons I want to continue to have these calls in different ways, and we're going to talk about different topics. I know on the benefit side, that's another piece. Is a lot of people are really hanging in with the companies that they've been with because they want to have access to benefits, right? So that's a big piece, right? On the flip side of that, there's a lot of companies that are paying big dollars to have people just show up. I mean, Amazon, I think they're what, $17-18 an hour, benefits day one, and
there
more.
are two. Yeah, there are two of those facilities, close to where I live. I live in between two of them, but they're hiring people all the time to come and ship out orders. They're not. It's really the items that they are stocking there are very particular, and there's a big delay on some of the items because you can order something, say from Jason's hunting shop or whatever, and in the past you may have been able to stock your items at that warehouse and it goes straight from there.
Right.
Well, they're not having some of those items come in now and be stored there, so they would then have to get with you. Well, if you're on a skeleton crew, and you get 100 orders in, and Billy and Bobby are the only two pulling orders, it's going to take longer to get that stuff.
Right.
So, but I don't know. I just, with the unemployment and going back to work and being able to go back to work, it's not feasible financially to go back to work. It's that's the big question that's up in the air right now.
Right.
And I'm not saying that nobody considered it. I'm just saying that it's just like a missing piece at this point.
Right.
Of how that was considered. Because if it's not obligated that these businesses are closing, then people are not going to continue to receive their unemployment benefits, whether or not they can go back to work because of what the company has decided.
Yeah, the vibe that I've been getting from a lot of business owners is, it's that uncertainty. Like, when is the date? We all know we're gonna go back.
Yeah,
we're gonna turn the lights back on. It's time to go back at some point, but not having a date certain. What day is that? And everybody still gets to make the choice. Hey, I decide that we're going, as an organization, we can postpone doing tours and events. I mean, I'll tell you again, very, very transparent for GMA. The minute that we can book a plant tour at any facility, we got a bunch of them that are teed up. Heather's got great conversations with a lot of folks that we already had lined up for the past 3 months that got delayed. None of them canceled. None of them said you'll never come see us. Some of them said we're just going to push it back a month or two, or some said, we got one or two that pushed to 2021. So we're not taking visitors till 2021. That's just the reality, right? But the minute that we can get one on the books, we're going to show, as an organization, we've chosen to, for those that they're interested in getting back to as normal as possible, as quick as possible, we're going to, practice social distancing. We're going to add a few things in our organization. Yeah, I mean, we're going to have hand sanitizer. We've never had hand sanitizer.
Gallons of hand sanitizer, GMA mask.
GMA mask. I don't know if we're going to pull off a GMA mask.
You get to write your name on it.
I like how you're thinking though. That's freaking
like genius. A name tag.
Yeah. I'm gonna put your name on that idea.
Put me to work.
But
I actually had hand sanitizer on my desk, I will say.
Right.
But I took that crap back when I took off the stuff off my desk. I was like, I'm taking this with me.
So we're gonna open back up for business as quick as is humanly possible, but we want to make sure that we do it in a responsible way, and only people that are of that mindset are going to register to go to events, which is cool, right?
Well,
we're going to continue to do these so we kind of make that transition, but. Mm-hmm.
Well, with networking and all the stuff that we do, as far as networking goes, if you don't have that level of caution, then people are not going to respect things in the future.
Right.
If they're like, well, do they really care about us, or do they just want us to pay our money and go to these events and, So you honestly have to care about these people to maintain that respect. I mean, we want everything to be back to normal, but there's a level of normal that's going to be there
Oh
for
yeah.
a little while
Yeah.
longer. So
Yeah.
those I guess it was Keaton. He can keep us with those towelettes. Oh, you can even get GMA hand sanitizer
Right.
towelettes there. Have it all in those little packets.
Yep. Yep.
I got plenty of ideas.
No doubt. No doubt. Well, I appreciate that, Michelle. And again, we want everybody's voice to be heard on these calls because there's so many different vantage points, opinions, and I mean, where we stand in business as an employee, as an employer, as a, as in the networking space. But we want to make sure that we serve our members the best way that we can. We don't want to do anything stupid to take out any of our top people either. We want to make sure that we're logical in the way that we roll this out. On the flip side, we got to make sure that we help these companies maintain viable businesses, and what we do, what we bring to the table is uniquely that. We give folks the opportunity to build relationships and to continue and grow their business and learn best practices, so those are, on the flip side is one of the, I assure you, one of the key topics that we'll be having at all of our tours is how did they and how are they continuing to do new safety protocols in their facilities. That's valuable information that you're going to learn by plugging into some of these things, right? So, but again, thank you so much, Michelle. And hey, I want to open it up to you and see where you're at. And, tell us a little bit about your operation and how we could be of service to you. Let me see. You'll unmute you here. There you go. Try that. There you go.
So you're going to let me talk this time?
Yes, sir. Definitely want you to share with us.
Let me give you some, I'm a retired colonel from the Army, and I've been working with the Department of Defense now in one capacity or another since 1962. Kind of dates me a little bit, but it gives me an interesting perspective. Within the Department of Defense, and I'm going to target the last question that was asked, what's going to happen to manufacturing? Everything that DoD buys has to be made in the United States of America or with an ally, and China's not an ally. We've never considered healthcare in a generic sense in that description. DoD has, as you know, has been fielding hospitals and personnel and equipment all over the country.
Right.
We've activated Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine medical units that are in the Guard and in the reserve components in order to provide them wherever they're needed. Just like with the Comfort and the Mercy. Right. These are 1,000 hospital ships. I think you're going to find that DoD is going to add healthcare related components to that by U.S. mandate.
Yep.
I think you're going to see that applied to the VA. I think they're going to come into the same rules that DoD does. And I think you're going to find some of the other federal agencies, especially Homeland Security and Department of Justice with law enforcement, coming under those rules. And the reason is exactly what you just described, this idea of items meeting a civil code versus the FDA standards.
Right.
Healthcare has become, and this pandemic has really re-educated us on the scope. You can go back to 1918 with the Spanish flu and MARS and SARS and the other episodes along the way, but nothing has really hit home to the magnitude that this has hit home.
Right.
And as a result, I think you'll see some very significant shifts. The other thing is DoD published some guidelines yesterday that there'll be a new normal. They haven't described it yet.
Yeah.
What they have recognized is this has forced us to acquire by service and to disperse across all branches of the armed services several 100,000 laptops with at-home technology. We've never experienced this before. We can work around the security elements. We've got capabilities to do that. But all of a sudden, we can save on a certain amount of travel. We can save on face-to-face, on critical timing, critical issues in a way that we've just never experienced before.
Right.
They've also recognized that to some degree with fluctuating organizations, an organization that's going to surge and then retract and surge and retract, we don't necessarily have to build the capacity in space for that. We can take advantage of technology. This is bringing about a reawakening of utilization of technology by DoD at all levels. And I think you'll see some positive outcomes on that. So we have where the governor, and I was reading all of his material yesterday, both historically and up to the new dictate. I find it interesting, some of the fields that he has selected, which are one-on-one physical contact versus where we really need to and have the ability to do distance spacing and get people back to work.
Right.
It's more of, we're going to satisfy personal convenience rather than get real jobs in real quantities going.
Right.
Because real jobs generate demand, and demand generates the growth of the business industry. So it's going to be an interesting play. DoD has put a hold on moving people around unless critically essential in order to reduce the physical contact and any potential spread of the virus from one source to another. And you're going to see that continue for some period of time. When we graduate soldiers at our training centers, they're staying right there. They will only go to a unit if that unit meets a critical low-level threshold where we have to expedite a group to them, because it's maintaining that social distancing and restricted travel, which further isolates and allows that virus to run its course and dissipate. So it's all of these hit home. And Jason, I just appreciate you letting me take part. As many of you know, my job is to find jobs for those that are coming out of medical separation, most of them training injuries, some illness. Once we get them 100%, my job is to find them jobs. So I appreciate any effort you guys do across the board.
Yeah, well, we definitely appreciate that. I mean, for those of you who don't know, I'm Air Force vet, and when I got out of the service, I was very fortunate. I had a great safety net when I got out and was able to transition to back to the civilian sector pretty smoothly. But there's a lot of our vets that that are not quite in that situation, and we want to be able to help and play a part in making those connections. We have found that prior military folks in manufacturing tend to be a really, really, really good combination, because they understand a variety of different things. They understand that the mission comes first, and they understand, consistency and I mean, there's so many things that the military training, I mean, it clearly made me the man that I am today. And I lean back on a lot of the things that I've learned through that process. But I think there's some great opportunities right now and going into the future of how we can engage the military and veteran community to get them more plugged in. And I think, you mentioned it there, Hayden, and we've talked about it all throughout this call, is there's going to be a reshoring of manufacturing to the U.S. like we've never seen before. Right now we're at 22 million people that are filed unemployment across the U.S. We need to put those folks back to doing something. And I believe that, it's going to take a little bit, because we all know that manufacturing is pretty capital intensive. It takes a lot to get a manufacturing facility stood up, and the training and all the bits and pieces. But once we get that in place, the stability and the opportunities in the manufacturing space, I believe, are going to be better than they have ever been in our lifetimes. And
you're exactly right. I also think that there's a short-term diversion of manufacturing capability to meet an immediate need.
Yes. Yeah.
And some folks are doing an absolutely phenomenal job of converting what would be distilleries into the hand sanitizing business.
Yep.
Once this is over and those get restructured and cleaned and put back into their normal use, we are going to have an opportunity that most people have really not thought through for small business startups to begin to look at these products that you can build and sell to the government in small quantities. Listen, we had a mission to have 15,000 ventilators in place by the state of New York before this broke out, and they had 3,000. Mm-hmm. They had used them and they hadn't replenished them.
Right.
You've talked about supply chain logistics. There's going to be a huge effort to figure out what do we need and how can we continuously acquire those, and they've got a shelf life, either to be upgraded or modified. You don't just buy them, put them on the shelf and leave them forever like we did before.
Right.
And small business to get that up and running that can grow to meet that demand is a huge opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I think we got, again, I think we're in I agree, hey, that it's tough and it's going, I don't know that we're through the roughest part of it yet, but I am convinced by working together as a community and figuring out, learning how we can retool our businesses to meet the demand, finding and identifying new demands. And then also as we work through this reshoring, getting folks back, getting manufacturing back to the U.S. in unique ways. The opportunities, I'm more excited today than I have been in ever, and seeing what we can do, and hopefully GMA, we could play an active part in making those connections and identifying how we can connect those dots. Our goal, is to help support and grow manufacturing in the state of Georgia. And we're committed to continue on that mission. And this has been a challenge for us. I'll tell you that. We saw revenue go to zero about a month ago. Right. And that's just just part of it. Again, being very transparent with you guys, that's just part of the process, but we're still committed to doing the right thing. And I believe that we're on the other side of this, it's going to be a different conversation. And we've grown stronger. We've grown differently, and we've made some really cool new connections and learned some new tools, but we'll get through this. But we got to continue to work together. So again, Hayden, I really appreciate you being able to share today. It means a ton to us, and all those that y'all have shared. I want to open it up to the GMA team real quick and kind of get y'all's insight. Mr. Brian, look like you got a trim, brother. Find you a barber shop that could stay 6 feet away from you.
No, it's still there. Just don't see it.
I got you.
I can't say enough about this roundtable. I can't add anything. I watch the numbers. I look at this issue quantitatively. I'm looking for movement, but I can't say enough about what Michelle and Hayden and Keaton and Mr. Fisher and Roger and everybody's contributed here today. I don't really have anything to add. I'm just encouraged by their vibe and their ability to bring, their ideas forward.
So you have a little bit of insight differently at your house than we do at our house. What's the vibe at your house on the reopening? I know that you got some health.
Well, yeah, we're kind of in that Emory University CDC world down here, and it's all about the numbers. I've got some anecdotal information. A friend of ours, or one of Sophia's daughters dates a young man who was called back off furlough because his company got their cash and they can no longer furlough people. So he's been asked to go back part-time, and everybody was asked overnight to come back part-time the day after they got their cash because they've got to spend it. He's a physician's assistant to anesthesiology. So they're doing more non-elective, they're doing more elective surgeries. So we're just watching the numbers, and I think who was it? Hayden said that somebody's are opening up nail salons, which is one of the most non-6 foot type relationships there is. Okay. I guess people have to make their choice to go into that or not. And, so it's tough right now. I'm not sure the numbers are giving us all clear direction yet, but we'll hope for them.
Yep. We'll find them on the other side for sure. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks, Brian. Appreciate you sharing. All right, Miss Brittany.
You know, when I heard nail salon, I already have an opinion about that. I think, you know, everything that we've talked about is very well said from everybody. But I think, you know, is it too soon? Possibly. Would have been possible. You just don't know. You just have to be an adult and use your decisions wisely, and just, you know, what you're comfortable with and what you're not. And for what I understand, even before this got really bad, I did go to the nail salon and I did go to Home Depot, and things were being done as a business should. They took the right, you know, action as needed. You know, you went in and they made sure that you had hand sanitizer. They made sure that you were not to check out because there was somebody in front of you. When I went to the nail salon, they would not let me book at first because there was too many people in there. So they were making sure that when I went in, that there was only 3 people in there, and you sat over here and they sat over there. So, I mean, I'm seeing that businesses are taking the right, you know, action as needed. So I just think it's all about a preference and just being safe about it. So I think everyone kind of said it very well, you know, with their own preference, you know.
Cool. Wesley said in the office, he's like, we can't wait to get the girls back because we need some more entertainment in the office. I don't know. It's like, come on, man. As long we do have fun as a family here in GMA.
Well,
So
we're like his older sisters. So we're just like a big family. So I definitely miss being back at the office myself.
Yeah.
I'm like Michelle. She had mentioned previous, you know, meetings that, you know, she's a hugger. She, you know, she's likes to talk and chit chat and things like that. So I definitely miss that. But for now, I understand, you know, that we have to do it this way, but definitely look forward to getting back and being back to the normal, whatever that is nowadays.
Yeah. Monday will be soon enough in GMA world. So thanks, Brittany.
Yeah.
All right, Miss Heather, what's your favorite part? What's your view on the state of the world?
Everybody has some really good input and thoughts, and, you know, really good insights on what's going on. I'm the opposite. I feel like, of Brittany here. I'm gonna be like, please stay 6 feet away from me or more. Do not hug me. Do not touch my hand. I'm just one of those people. I won't get my nails done for 6 months or more, probably. I can't help it. That's as real as I can be.
And that's what we want. That's the key. Is everybody needs to be comfortable with whatever that fits for them. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just who I am. I cannot help it. I will not go anywhere unless it's just killing me that I've got to go to Home Depot, because I do have some around the house projects that I just don't know. And I hate to be that person, but I just don't know. I'm not there yet.
Yeah. And we all get to choose. That's cool. I appreciate you sharing that, Heather, for sure. All right. Now, Ms. Koki, I know you got often take notes and have questions or two about any of our callers. Did you have anything that you had questions about, or anything you'd like to share from today? Hold on one second. Stand by just a second. Hold on. There you go. Now you're good.
Okay. No questions as far as speakers. So thank you. But I'm a little bit in between Brittany and Heather. I'm not crazy. I'm going to look myself at the numbers to make sure the numbers are going down before I go out.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as manufacturing and businesses are concerned, as long as they can keep their distance and take the, you know, safety precautions, I think it's crucial to get the economy back up and running. But, you know, I'm with caution. If it's possible, yes. I think, you know, the dollar is the almighty dollar. But man, when somebody in your family contracts this and actually passes away, you know, you usually think differently about life.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, I'm in between Brittany and Heather.
Yep. I got you. That's cool. Well, thank you, Koki. Again, I appreciate all that you do to help support, you know, what we do here at GMA, and for recapping these calls. She does all the minutes and the show notes, so those will be included in these later today. I would ask that everybody, when we post these on LinkedIn today, that you put your comment about what you liked best about the call. Sometimes we have a chance to go around and ask everybody, but put that comment in the post that we're going to put on LinkedIn today, and share what your favorite part about the call was today. We do have a really cool call lined up for tomorrow. It's our first virtual networking. We've been doing that on every call to a certain degree, but it's an official virtual networking tomorrow at 10 o'clock. And on Thursday, we've got a Recover Roundtable. So we're going to be talking about what are we doing. I mean, perfectly timed. I didn't know that it was going to be perfectly timed when we scheduled it last week. But since we already got it on the books, we're going to talk about what steps are we taking as organizations, as individuals, and as businesses. You know, what are we doing to get this thing back up to speed? So that's the game plan for that. If you do have a camera, turn it on. We're going to take a real quick photo. I got just reminded by somebody real quick. Everybody smile. Time out. You think I know how to operate this device by now. All right, everybody smile, smile, wave. Michelle, smile, smile, wave. All right, cool. So thank you again for being a participant in this. So we got Wednesday is networking. You got to be a GMA member to be able to log on and register for that event. We had a hiccup with it yesterday for registration, but it's fixed now. But you have to be a GMA member to plug into the networking. Thursday will be the Recovery Roundtable. Friday will be Fun Fridays. And Monday, we're going to be doing all this internally with the team here. So that'll be a new twist on things. So, but with that, guys, it has been another great day at GMA. Thank you all for being a part of the organization and this call and our world. And we're looking forward to supporting you, getting past this and getting on to the next phase. So thanks a bunch, guys. We'll see you at the next call. Take care. Bye-bye.